big time.
That's a milestone. Five is a
Episode 5. Still in single digits, but we're getting there. But yeah, you're just back from playing football. So you're going out doing the proof of work. That's the thing. I've been sitting on my backside most of the evening, but hey, it's one of those things.
what's it called,
Um,
proof work, but you could be doing mental proof work as well through
well,
uh,
yeah, trying to
studying
put the
and stuff
kids
like
kids
that.
to
So
sleep. Yeah. That is
yeah,
mental proof of work. My God,
yeah, true.
my kids. But yeah, today or well, on this episode, I think we'll just talk a little bit about effectively Bitcoin and nature, which kind of ties into your recent blog post that's on the website currently. And I thought, well, I've just said to you before the podcast, like I really, really like this blog post because it resonates with me. It should resonate with quite a lot of people. And for me, it makes things a lot clearer between why Bitcoin is here, why Bitcoin's effective, why Bitcoin's impacting the globe in comparison to the fiat financial system, and relating that to nature really, to me, it speaks volumes for what's happening at the moment. Um, it's you wrote this pretty recently, didn't you, Chris?
Yeah, it was probably about 3 weeks ago, and it's probably not even my usual style of writing, but it's like sometimes you have things in your head that you just need to get out in paper and write them down. So yeah, it's more of a philosophical piece. I know I wrote a book before and it was very factual. Obviously, some of my opinions on it,
Mm.
but yeah, it was basically straight about Bitcoin, history of money, and the technical components of Bitcoin and inflation and stuff like that, very very black and white. But yeah, this was a very philosophical piece. I enjoyed writing it, to be honest. And it's been thoughts that have been on my head for quite a while, and probably not the first as well to talk about this, but yeah, like Bitcoin and its origin story is very very interesting in general, and I think it's amazing that it's got so far without technically a founder
Yeah.
there. Um, and I've heard people call it the Immaculate Conception, so it's kind of born out of nothing, out of a miracle, really, which is very interesting. And that's really the centerpiece of everything, um, because no one controls it. It's probably, and I know this is kind of ironic to say, but the closest thing to a man-made piece of nature that we have,
Mm.
out of anything that we've constructed. So, yeah, just an interesting topic in general, how Bitcoin is very akin to how nature has evolved, how Bitcoin's evolved. So yeah, we
Yeah.
we can get into it, Alan. But yeah, thanks first of all for going through it. And yeah, I think it's on the blog post section of our site. So on Emerge21.com, if anyone wants to read it, and happy to hear feedback as well. Mightn't be for everyone, but I thought it was interesting to write
Fuck
about.
yeah, no, definitely it is. Like, the thing, I think one of the phrases that really kind of resonated with me constantly in learning about Bitcoin is the whole concept is money is the foundation of society. And if you look at that from a surface level, you think, oh, it's very superficial, money, society. But on a deeper level, and sort of diving into this particular blog post, money is the foundation of society. It's that information layer. It's that, if it's broken, if it's not, if it's manipulated or controlled by certain entities, you're getting artificial information put out there, which distorts markets, distorts information effectively coming out, which then disrupts the functioning in society. So when you do break it all down to the understanding of what money is, and that money is the foundation of society, it factually plays out. And that's the same with nature, isn't it? It's the same concept. You've got natural processes and natural things that happen. And, talking a little bit about things failing, nature fails and replicates and, adjusts and adapts and evolves. Whereas, we've got a financial system that's controlled by a few, and it's refusing to let things fail. It's refusing to let businesses fail, to let banks fail, when, everything needs to be cleansed and everything needs to kind of readjust and pivot and evolve into a stronger kind of economic system, I suppose, from the financial point of view. But like, what are your thoughts on that, Chris? Generally, I know in the blog you wrote a bit about it, and it's something that it's not, the economy we have, they just don't let it fail. They don't let these businesses that are effectively zombie companies, collapse and fall. And, people have to just acknowledge that this has to happen for things to heal and build up stronger again. But is that the kind of thought process you've been on within the actual writing of that post? Or
Yeah, so it basically comes down to living in two systems. So we have what's called the fiat system, and I know there's going to be some people new to this, so to give a very brief background, the money that we use today is very different from the money throughout history. I'll not go into the whole story about it, but gold was money for a long time. No one controlled gold. Gold was seen as neutral money. You could find it all over the world. You couldn't replicate it. Alchemy was tried for thousands of years to recreate gold. It had these properties that basically just worked as money. As technology evolved, we kind of skipped we didn't quite get to from the analog version of money, which is gold, to the digital version of money, which you can see as Bitcoin right now. There's this kind of intermediary in the middle called the fiat system, and the fiat system is basically paper issued money by a government. So because it's paper issued money by a government, it's very different from gold. Gold, no one controlled. Now fiat money, governments control, central banks control. So in general, people know that as the dollar, the pound, the yen, the euro. So those are kind of fiat currencies. Now, what Alan's just covered there is like it can be manipulated, and there's no doubt that it has been manipulated in the past. I think we've got certain groups of people who are able to make decisions, and they're kind of they're tweaking things left, right, and center. Now, again, they could be honest actors. I don't think that's the case all the time. Like being able to control money is a superpower if you think about it.
Yeah.
And the blog post where it was getting at is when you have this control, like there's a lot of variables, like a lot of decisions that humans make throughout the day, and when someone influences that and they try and set interest rates, for example, or increase or decrease the money supply, and there's not that many variables that they could change, but they're huge when they do, like changing interest rates and changing money supply, increasing money supply, then it affects everyone in the world through inflation, ability to get credit, being locked out of financial systems. So that kind of system is very different from what we had before with gold, where gold was passed about society. Now, Bitcoin, on the other hand, I see it as the first and only digital money that's very neutral and close to nature. So you've got these kind of two systems, one that's controlled and one that's completely neutral. And I compare then how Bitcoin being neutral is similar to how just basically the force of nature work. So you've got things like temperature, you've got gravity, you've got sunlight, things like that. So those are all set for us. Like we don't control those, but imagine that you wanted somebody for whatever reason to be able to control sunlight, to be able to control temperature, to be able to control the weather, the elements, gravity, the seasons, the length of a day, things like that. And if you left that in someone's hands over time, it's going to end up chaos. It's chaotic. Now, that's not to say that nature doesn't have challenges, but the way we've adapted as humans is to say, look, these are the laws of the universe, these are the laws of nature. We have to adapt and we have to work around those. We shouldn't try and control them. If winter's coming this winter, you don't turn winter off and say we shouldn't have winter. We put on snow tires and we deal with it. We wrap up and we adapt, and that's the way it should be. And for money, we're doing exactly that. Like humans are, and usually a very centralized group of humans are taking monetary decisions for the vast majority of the world and don't understand the ripple effect as well of what's happening. So I kind of compare it to like you create a lot of money on one side of the world. So obviously the US or the world reserve currency, they create a lot of money. On the other side of the world, and not physically on the other side of the world, but some other country is going to feel the impact of that. Somebody in this country and the US is going to feel the impact of that. So you're messing with people's lives and trying to change these dials on things without understanding the full consequences. And compare that to Bitcoin. No one controls it. It's completely decentralized. It's completely neutral. If things go wrong, it's up to humans to adapt and adjust and become stronger. Now, where fiat comes in place, and one of the big flaws is that bailouts are a thing. Like if someone decides that a business is too big to fail or too important in their opinion, doesn't matter if it's anybody else's opinion, then they can bail out those companies those systems, whatever that whole industry, if they want. But again, that affects somebody else. So people are making decisions that should be taken out of humans' hands, left
Mm.
in a completely neutral way. And if things don't go according to plan, then what humans should do is adjust and adapt and become stronger, just
Yeah.
as we would do in nature. So that's kind of the premise of it. Like Bitcoin serves as the protocol of nature, really, for money, where no one controls it and we have to work around it. Like, yeah, like there's so many examples, like changing the seasons, the order of the seasons. Like you imagine the US thought we're going through a drought here, so we'll have more rain here, but maybe some other side of the world, then there's a tidal wave for all
Yeah.
you just don't know. A tsunami, like people are messing with these things, and sometimes it's financial tsunamis on the other side of the world because they're absolutely ruining some countries as well, and not just the US, but some of the larger countries where, yeah, they're making these decisions. So I know that was a long kind of one that I answer there, Alan, but that's kind of the
No.
general gist of it.
It's good. It's that, as you say, it's like the second and third order effects of actions that are taken by again, it's a very select few people that are making these decisions that are impacting, global changes, economies, and people's lives effectively. And I think that's the thing again with Bitcoin as well. It's that collective kind of consciousness, that consensus, that decentralized structure that's global. I remember reading a book years ago called The Wisdom of Crowds. And it's a very similar concept where, if you get a large enough group of people guiding the flow of decisions, generally they arrive at the right answers or the right decisions. Whereas we're relying on a select number of like basically a handful of people making global changing decisions. And I think that's a problem. And then when you've got those people in charge of the money, as Jeff Booth would say, like, money is superordinate to laws. Those who control the money can basically, create the laws, decide on the infrastructure and structures, decide on the businesses that survive, decide on the banks to bail out. So it's really not a fair system. And that is, again, when you come back to Bitcoin, Bitcoin's creating that fair, neutral money. And I suppose the neutrality of the money, is that big effectively because there's a hard cap, fixed supply, 21 million, and basically you've got a mutable code that can't be messed with, I suppose, basically. Would that be why, is that why we would describe it as neutral money?
Yeah, it's some of the decentralized nature. Like
Yeah.
no one controls it. There's nobody at the center of it. Now people can try and influence it all they want, but the consensus mechanism within Bitcoin as well means that it's not going to be changed. Like I don't want there to be more or less than 21 million. Like I know what
Yeah.
the hard cap is, and I never want that to change. And if I don't want to change that, I run the same node that I run today, and that's always the way it's going to be. Unless again there's something that everyone in the world agrees to. And I would say there's going to be forks of Bitcoin in the future, but I think this has already been tested a few times already, and we can see the outcome of it. So, and part of this piece that I wrote in the book is in the sorry in the article as well, the blog post is, how it's kind of like it's strengthening over time. Like I love the resiliency of Bitcoin. Like it started off and it was tested, a couple of times, and it's actually, as I say, a miracle how it grew up from
Mm.
2008, 2009 to what it is today. How many battles it's already faced, and it's been battle tested, and it's going to be tested again. Um, and it's good, and I think every time it gets attacked, it becomes stronger. Like it bounces back and it becomes more resilient, and we've seen that over and over years. And again, I think that's going to continue. But again, that's how it happens in nature. Like things get attacked, and if they're not strong enough, they fail. And evolution will say that we're going to strengthen and strengthen until the right outcome happens, and that's exactly what should happen with humanity and our financial system. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, the
no,
decentralization is key to the whole thing.
yeah.
That's what makes it neutral money, and that's what means that no one controls it, and
Yeah.
that's why it's akin to
Yeah.
a piece of nature.
Because that was the thing. Like I had a conversation there yesterday with a friend of mine, and they approached me and started talking, just brought up Bitcoin out of the blue. But yeah, just it's having the discussion. It's like it went, so tell me about this Bitcoin, and then there's like floodgates open in my brain and all this information comes flying forward and I'm like, where do you start? Where do you start? And it's difficult to get the right angle to come at because there's so many different angles. But I think it's a good point to say, like, and that's one of the things I've written down from your blog as well. It's like without failure, there can be no evolution. And perhaps it is the fiat system is that element of failure that's occurred over the last, well, what, 100 years. And now Bitcoin's come along to evolve the money into something that's, better. Well, it's definitely an upgrade for one thing. But yeah, there's lots like there's just lots of people coming now talking about this and wanting to know more. And again, it's trying to get that, angle to let it click and make it click with them. And it's difficult to get the right angle sometimes, but again, with what we're doing with Emerge 21, like we're finding, like you've seen it yourself, over the last few months since we started, more and more people are coming up to us and, inquiring about how do you get the knowledge around Bitcoin? How do I buy Bitcoin? How do I hold it, etc. There's all these, base level questions, but it's getting that kind of educational understanding as well. That's basically what I left the conversation yesterday with. It was like I can tell you all I can about Bitcoin and try to get you to understand it, but ultimately, you've got to understand the concept yourself. And the concept of Bitcoin is don't trust, verify. If you're trying to trust what I'm saying about Bitcoin to make you go and, buy it and hold it and invest in it and save in it, then that's not the concept. You need to really grasp that understanding and have the conviction to know I'm going to buy this, I'm going to hold it, I'm going to save in it because it's going to, grow my wealth over time. But and again, it's the same like within nature, you learn as you go. Basically, you learn from failure, you learn from mistakes, but you gotta evolve. And with this here, it's difficult because it's such a new concept for so many people to try to grasp and trying to, move from the fiat system and evolve into this higher level financial monetary system. It's difficult to take that step, but I suppose that's why companies like ourselves and other people are out educating and trying to educate more and more people around it. But like, what are you feeling or what are you experiencing at the moment? Are you finding more people, open to discussing Bitcoin just generally in your, social life and your workplace and various aspects?
Yeah, and I think we touched on this in the last time. Like you don't unlearn Bitcoin. There's more people learning it, and it's got a network effect as well. And that's
Mm.
part of this whole like how nature evolves too. To me, I see it as the strongest form of money, the strongest asset actually as well, that we have, and it's a matter of time before it wins outright. Like I actually don't see any other scenario where another asset competes with it eventually. Now, how long it's going to take is another thing. And network effects are certainly a thing. So yeah, in my personal life, I find it. I think first of all, Emerge21 is growing, in viewership, and I know it's still relatively small right now, but definitely trending in the right direction. And I think it'll continue that way. But again, if we're not doing a good enough job at this, then we don't want the bailout. We want to improve and we want to adapt and we want to keep going. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Like you don't want government looking after you, and eventually it'll make you soft. Like you'll become complacent and you'll not provide the right service for humanity if you're just getting bailed out. Like recessions are another thing. Recessions are outlawed at the minute, and I wrote about that. Like just let things that are subpar fail.
Fall apart. Mm.
Yeah, and people who rebuild them and learn from those mistakes will build back stronger. So when it comes to Bitcoin and to answer your question, yeah, it's easier to talk about Bitcoin now, I think because of the price action as well at the minute, but it's had 16 years almost established now. So it's yeah, and again, it's been battle tested. All these things that people said it would fail for, it's just sucking people in left, right, and center. Not just people, countries, companies, everything in it. Yeah, it's got this kind of real, as I say, resiliency, but also kind of, I know people called it before, like kind of like this virus that spreads throughout. But once, you understand it and once you get attached to it, you do spread the word, and it's crazy how it's infiltrating every single part of every life. And that's I think again, because it's the strongest asset, like it's better than any fiat currency. Like fiat's going to go down, Bitcoin's going to keep going up in value. It's better than any real estate. And when I say any, yeah, probably any, because of its properties. Again, you can move Bitcoin anywhere in the world. You can't move your property anywhere in the world. You can always
Mhm.
pick out a couple of things in every asset where Bitcoin is superior, and you can't. I don't think there's a single asset that has a better feature than Bitcoin's features.
Yeah.
So that's the way you have to look at it. So this trajectory is going to continue on and on and on. And because it's so perfectly designed, it's going to keep going that way. And again, that's just the strongest will survive out of
Yeah.
all assets and all money. And Bitcoin is the one.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing as well. A lot of people, they come to it and they think, well, it's too good to be true. Like, in a way, it's like, how is it the perfect money? How is it better in all these other assets and investment opportunities? But again, when you break it all down, it is, there is no second best, to quote somebody, well, quite a high profile individual in the space. Um, but yeah, it's just, it is getting to that point where, yes, more people, I still feel it like not enough, obviously, not enough people are understanding or getting to the point of trying to understand it. It's hard when you're in the space and like that echo chamber within, the Bitcoin community. You feel like, well, there's going to be a rush of people coming in now, but I still feel like there's only a couple of people like in my kind of close circles that have actually actively reached out to me and wanted to find out more about it. Primarily because it's the same kind of theme as well, in that it's protecting their financial, well, their future finances and their wealth for passing on to their children, the next generation. I think that's one of the biggest worries that I'm hearing from people generally. It's like you've got your assets, your property, you've been, maybe at a pension, you've got savings, like maybe you've invested in gold a little bit. It's then taking that leap of, well, I know Bitcoin's this thing, it's a big deal. Like lots of people are talking about it, countries, businesses, institutions, etc. But you know, it's getting those people to come in and take that leap, that step onto the actual Bitcoin asset kind of wealth fund, so to speak, and getting that into their family environment so that they understand it and can pass it on to generations. And I think we're probably quite a few years off, more and more mass adoption coming in from the retail aspect of it. But it is happening, and it's happening again quick, as I've said in the last podcast, quicker than I expected. But I still feel there is a barrier there. There's a wall where the price maybe is putting maybe some people off, and like, oh, I can't afford a whole Bitcoin because it's, 90 odd grand. But it's still, once they understand the principles of it and they realize what it is, they'll realize that, well, owning a portion of Bitcoin's better than owning nothing, or saving, saving sitting in a bank account. But it will take time for that. And I think, again, from our point of view, that's one of our challenges, trying to get people to really understand that. But again, it's all part of that with running the Bitcoin breakthrough as well, and actually getting people into that and just getting feedback from people, because that, until you start learning this stuff, you're going to be sitting there just going around in circles. So it is just, getting people into that process and mindset. And again, the next actual breakthrough event, we've changed that, haven't we, in a couple of weeks? It's the 13th
Yeah.
of December. If you're listening after the 13th of December, there will be another date. But
Yeah.
yeah, we've adjusted it slightly, haven't we?
Yeah, just condensed it a bit more as well, because just based on the feedback from the last one as well. And again, that's what we're just talking about. We have to adapt, like we have to adapt to
Hmm.
people's needs, and we're going to keep doing that until we get it. We'll never get it perfect, but until we're the best at what we do out there, we don't need to be necessarily the biggest, but we want to try and be the best at educating in the Bitcoin space, with that aim of accelerating the understanding of Bitcoin. So yeah, we've adapted it, shortened it down. I know it's a commitment sometimes for people to come at 5 days. We've moved it from 5 days to 3 days. Try and do it in shorter bursts as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting, and we'll keep adjusting it until we get it right, and we'll keep providing content as well, for people. One thing I was gonna talk to you about as well, Alan, is like there's no um because it's so new, and because people don't understand it, it's always got a kind of negative connotation around, it's a cult, and just people are on it, and they're on early, and they're kind of talking their own bags and stuff like that. I'll maybe give my views and then see if you're aligned to this, but like Bitcoin to me like I'm not married to Bitcoin, believe it or not, even though I've spent all my time on here and I've written a book, started a business based on Bitcoin, spend most of my time researching Bitcoin and keeping up to date with all the news and events and adoption. But if something else came along that was better, and I'll touch on 2 points in this because this is a question that people ask quite a lot. What about the next Bitcoin? First of all, I'll say I'll explain then why I don't think that'll happen. But if someone else was to come along better, if you were to say I would still stick with Bitcoin and it's better, then you're doing yourself a disservice. You should. I am aligned to the Austrian School of Economics, which is again neutral money. I don't think governments should interfere with money. I don't think they should intervene in bailing out businesses. So all that we talked about before, like I don't think they should bailouts. I don't think they should kick the can down the road when it comes to recessions. I don't think they should try and save the day. I think nature is healing and everything should correct itself. So I love and I think it's the only way for humans to evolve is to go along with the Austrian School of Economics, which is essentially neutral money and not government interference with money. And the best tool for that, and the best tool by far, just happens to be Bitcoin. So I'm going to be in this space as long as that's the case, and I don't see it changing. The reason why I don't see it changing is because humans are problem solvers, and this problem has been solved. There's no incentive to solve it. When gold was there and we moved to the fiat system, the cypherpunks seen the problem and they tried to solve this for decades before and couldn't and attempted and failed, and people built upon that. Now that it's out there and it's been solved, the next evolution of money will probably be 500,000 thousands maybe of years away because this problem's solved. Nobody will spend their time trying to solve the problem of digital money. Now, there may be my view on it is that digital money's already been solved. As long as we're in a digital world, that's the way it's going to be. Now, maybe there's going to be some kind of telepathic money in the future, or like completely different technology that we've seen before. That's why I think every altcoin or whatever you want to call them, cryptocurrency, is on the failure because it's not money. The problem of money has been solved. Money should have really three aspects of it. You should be able to store, send, and receive it, and that's what Bitcoin does perfectly. So the problem has already been solved. There's no incentive for people to still work on this. The incentive is to grow this out to basically eliminate the fiat system and get back to a neutral money and put humanity back on track. So that's kind of where I stand. So look, Bitcoin's amazing. It's the best thing that's best tool that's out there at the moment. But you still should be open-minded as well that probably way beyond our lifetime, there's going to be something created that's new. And if it does come along, humans should adapt that if it's better than Bitcoin. So yeah, want to get your thoughts if you're aligned on that, or any thoughts
yeah, like I am, aligned, very much aligned. It's the Austrian school and learning about this in 2020, with the Keynesian economics, with the fact that that's the fiat system is based around that, and that there's the Austrian School of Economics. It's the Austrian school that, as you say, brings neutral money, free markets. The price adapts and adjusts depending on how the economy functions. And that's again, it's going back to the fiat system. Like an economy is not some kind of mechanical machine that can be adjusted back and forth by pulling different levers, interest rates, inflation, money creation, etc., and changing all those levers. It should be left to the free market, and that then relates to the fact businesses that aren't serving humanity properly or serving their customers correctly will fail. Another business comes along, brings that service or product, and people appreciate that better, they will flourish and grow. It's that neutral money concept. And I suppose the thing is too, like you say you're not married to Bitcoin. The thing about it is Bitcoin's the term, the name of what this protocol is. It's a number of different puzzle pieces that probably have developed and been devised since 1950s all through. It's not just something that's suddenly been created. It's all been put together into this unique, pristine monetary system that's now, it's in a way it is. Would you say it's too big to fail? I think it is. I think it's gone past that point. As you've said before in the past, like maybe within the first couple of years, from Bitcoin's creation and when it started to function properly, that would have been the time for it to maybe fail, but it's gone too long now. So yeah, it's that concept of, it's a protocol and a system and a decentralized network that brings neutral money, that it allows the free market to function. It actually forces the free market to function, as opposed to the Keynesian fiat circus that just is, it's totally clown world when you break it down and think about it. It's insane. So, in understanding that, if something better came along, and again, I can't see what that is in this moment in time. You can't predict the future. Things will evolve, things will change, technology will evolve. Who knows what will happen in the future in thousands of years' time? But as you say, branching out and looking out over the next 100,000, 5,000 plus years, and again relating that back to what gold was over the last 5,000 years. I can only see Bitcoin, the concept of what Bitcoin is and how it functions, the protocol, the technology. That's for me the fair neutral money system that we all need to actually flourish as a society, as a global society. Because it brings so much, it brings so much positivity and necessary benefit to humanity. Like again, you look at what is it, 2.5 or 3 billion people on the planet that can't get bank access to bank accounts or financial systems. And, this is something that when you bring in digital technology and AI and machines and various things, like this is the protocol, the network, the currency that will be used in the future. And there's nothing else that can compare. And how do you reinvent that thing, that perfect money system again? You can't, purely because it's got so big and there's so many people, within the ecosystem now. You invent something tomorrow that's maybe the same as Bitcoin. Like people can, migrate across to it, and they have done, as you said, with Bitcoin Cash and other hard forks. But ultimately, it's the consensus that says, no, I'm sticking with this. This is Bitcoin. This is what I want. This is what I want to put my energy in, my time, my focus, my money in, and this is what we want to be the monetary system going forward. So, no, I don't know. That was a long-winded answer probably to what you asked, but it aligns, yeah, pretty much with what you said.
Yeah, things should fail. Like, and do you ever do the fail if they should, if they have to naturally? And again, it benefits everyone. Even the people who fail, like if I set up a business, like if Emerge21 failed over a number of years, and if you really wanted to stay in this business and you reinvent it and you reinvent it stronger, you take a different approach, you learn, and then the customers then end up getting a better experience too. So, yeah, it's interesting. Do you ever do the thought experiment, Alan, of just the order of things that happened, you know, like naturally just because of technology developments and stuff like that, or it's just the way it is. So, for example, like I feel that if there was gold and then somebody created Bitcoin out of gold based on gold's flaws, I think Bitcoin was probably more created out of the flaws in the fiat system. That was the incentive. But really, if it had just went from gold to Bitcoin, and fiat never happened. And then somebody tried, so Bitcoin was in place, and we've got this Bitcoin standard now, and everybody's going, this is neutral money. Again, it's like nature, it's predictable. Everyone knows the supply, everyone knows how it works, everyone knows how it's settled, everyone knows how just basically it just became part of everyday life.
Hmm.
Again, just like the sunrise happens and the sunset happens, the seasons, the 4 seasons happen, and 365 days in a year. All that's just programmed in like nature. And that's the standard we're on. And if somebody came along and said, you know what, we're going to abandon that and we're going to give every government control over the money of the country, like how many people would actually, take that on and say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Like again, it's like giving control of the weather to, governments and
Hmm.
saying, right, we've worked like this for centuries, since the beginning of time, but now we're going to hand over the control to these group of people, and they're going to serve the world and do the best for humanity. Like, there's not a hope that you would do it. Like, think about it, like
So,
the internet just came along today. It was never there before, and you thought, you know, don't let the internet flourish the way it flourished at the moment. We'll do this different way of doing it, and we'll say, uh, a government will tell you which sites you can go on and how you can use the internet, and we'll just ban people from it, and outlaw this and outlaw that, and see who can interact with, what one person, one group can interact with another. I know there's censorship on the internet, but it is still an open protocol, that people can use. So like that thought experiment of, once something's in place maximally and how it should be, would you ever
Yeah.
take the alternative route? And with
No,
money, like we'd have to be crazy as a society and
no.
humanity to say, yeah, we've got something in place. Bitcoin has grown up. Say we grew up in the Bitcoin system, and then say, right, we're going to undo it and we're going to hand it over to these people instead.
Yeah, it's actually it's slightly crazy when you think about it like that, because imagine what the world would actually be like now if you went from 1913 and went on a Bitcoin standard, and it's been the Bitcoin standard for that period of time. Like, how different would everything be right now? As far as human flourishing, abundance. Well, I suppose you can argue it. Well, can you argue it the other way too? But no, you can't, because you're adopting a system, as you say, that is neutral money, that is technically will and well, you don't have the aspect of inflation involved if that was the case. And then, life becomes better because things actually become cheaper over time. You can actually save. You can have more time to, think about things, reflect on things, have more, more members of a family potentially. Like, when you look today, the birth rates across, well, the globe have dropped so much because simply people can't afford to have children. And people are required for both, parents to be out working, for instance, and then they're away from their children all the time. So, like, as again, coming back to that, money is the base layer of society, the foundation of society. So when you have a foundation that is solid, that is Bitcoin effectively, then other things, evolve off that to technically make your life better. But yeah, if that happened in 1913 as opposed to the Fed and the fiat system and all this manipulation and control, how would things be now?
Yeah, but
Like,
then if somebody came along now and said,
but yeah,
we're going to put in the Fed and we're going to put in this and we're going to take away your Bitcoin, that system's going to dissolve and we're going to go to this fiat system where government control, like
yeah.
who in the right mind is going to accept something
Well,
like that?
well, that's the thing, because you can then foresee what will happen. With if you come on a Bitcoin standard and then you're going on to the fiat standard, you can therefore foresee what's going to happen. Things are going to break down. Things are going to become more expensive. There's going to be a debt-based system. You know, Money is going to become meaningless. So, yeah, it's that. Well, again, it's just that evolution. It's the way. Well, it's the way we have it. This is what we've been born into. So, but it is an interesting way to flip it around on its head. Funny. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
there's certain things, like this is the way I think of my kind of mental models for how things will work out in the future. Like things take time to adopt, technology takes time to adopt. Like just a relatively famous, well, not famous, but I think inevitable change that's going to happen is driverless cars. Some people are against them right now, but if it was in society and it was fully functional and it was perfectly safe, and you could see that the number of deaths on the road went
Mm,
down, and
yeah,
you actually saved your time as well through driverless
mm,
cars. So that's in place again. That's fully in place, like completely done, because you don't have to go through the adoption. It's there and it works
yeah,
perfectly. And then you say, you know what, would it be a good idea to undo that and start putting on steering wheels and uh, you know, uh, start letting people navigate the roads again, and you have to concentrate. Like you'll get tired, the computer won't get tired, but you're going to rely on humans again to do that steering and make those decisions
yeah.
and spend time at the steering wheel. Like,
Mhm.
would that be a good thing to introduce? No.
No.
So I look at kind of technology adoptions like that in general. Like if it was fully adopted, is there any way that this could be undone? And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a good kind of thought experiment to play out with some of these things.
Mm. Yeah. And then, but as you say, like you look at Bitcoin, you just wouldn't. There's no incentive to go back to anything else that
Yeah.
because it's just not as good as it. Simple as that.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
and what I mentioned earlier about looking at it as an asset is interesting as well, and I think that's probably its natural evolution. It's going to be seen as an asset for a long time before it becomes the base layer money for everywhere. But like look at the price action now over this 15, 16 years that it's here. Every few years, like it absolutely crushes every other asset. Like crushes it like completely. Um, why would you invest in real estate and have the headache that you have right now
Yeah.
with it, with tenants and maintenance and taxes and yeah, unexpected bills and phone calls and whatever. Like like it's been profitable, but it's been in the absence of a real store of value, like Bitcoin. Look at bonds. The bond market is underperforming inflation most of the time.
Mm.
Again, that's a debt-based market. Like you're not going to get rich. And not that that's the aim of Bitcoin to get rich, but you're as an asset, you want your assets to do well. Uh, Bitcoin absolutely demolishes bonds. You look at the stock market too, and again, I talked about each asset has its flaws that you can't pick out in Bitcoin. Like
Mm.
you have to trust the management in that company to make all the right decisions all the time. To have longevity over 100 years. Like in some companies have performed very well,
Yeah.
but still relying on the human uh, aspect of it. And then you've got cash. We already know that cash gets printed to oblivion, so it's going
Yeah.
down. So you can take any asset, you can't there at all, and there's nothing compares to Bitcoin.
No.
So yeah, I just think it's on the natural path. There was this competition for money thousands of years ago when people were experimenting with seashells and rocks and livestock and whatever it was, and gold won. It won. Nobody forced gold on people. It won the natural competition for money. And I
Yeah.
think that natural competition for money is playing out right now. And there's a clear winner right now, which is
Mm.
Bitcoin. And there's these altcoins, there's fiat, there's gold still about. They're all in the mix. But once you actually look at everything, there's only one absolutely clear winner.
Yeah. And more people are waking up to that. It's the way it is and it's what's happening. And that was again with the conversation I had with the individual yesterday. That was the other thing. It's, you can buy stocks, you can buy gold, but you're having to put your trust into the fact that the company won't mess up or the person custodian the gold won't lose the gold or there'll be a war and a country will come in and steal the gold and
Or
all this
somebody
kind
will just find gold,
or so yeah.
or there'll be a better way to mine gold. Like that's
Well,
the
yeah.
human ingenuity side of assets. And what I love about Bitcoin, doesn't matter how hard you hammer the protocol
Mm.
with compute power, whatever it is, you're not getting any more Bitcoin out of that system every 10 minutes. Like
Yeah.
you can temporarily if like the difficulty adjustment hasn't adjusted, but that's a
Mm.
mechanism in there for balancing the
Yeah.
load. So everything will eventually weigh out at 10 minutes, and you can throw whatever you want, whatever tools. You can try and create something, try and invent something, try and
Mm.
invent anything better. And the only thing you'll get is a more efficient energy system, which is actually good for uh cost and things like that. And it'll actually, I think, find better energy resources.
Mm.
What I'm getting at is you can hammer it and you can try and be as you know yeah, as in
Aggressive.
yeah, you can approach it in 100 different ways, and you're not going to break that protocol.
Mm.
It's going to create the same amount of Bitcoin out of the protocol every 10 minutes. Now you do that with gold, and you get the smartest people in the world around to try and find a way to find more gold and better manufacture out of the ground gold. Like there's talk of gold being on asteroids, being under the sea. Like if that's so valuable and people are after it, they will find a better way of doing it,
They
and
will
that
get
will
it.
inflate the supply as well. So
Mm.
that'll actually like go as a counterbalance. Then if you inflate the supply, then it goes down, so it actually stops people from trying to do that. But it's interesting. But Bitcoin's the only one that no matter how hard you push it, you're not going to
Mm.
inflate the supply issuance
Yeah.
of Bitcoin, which makes it extremely interesting. So whatever asset you have, there's a strong argument, very strong argument that Bitcoin is like multiples better than it.
Superior. Well, yeah, it's the concept. You just can't create more. And again, a lot of people when they don't think through that either. And it would be probably interesting for us as well, getting people on. We were talking about getting guests on the podcast, and especially the whole real estate angle as well. And there's a couple of people
Mhm.
who were expert in real estate and Bitcoin. It'd be an interesting discussion because especially in Northern Ireland, Ireland here, there's a lot of real estate investors, and that's where they put. I say real estate. It's usually property. They just call it here, but it's more real estate in America. That's the term. But it's just trying to get Bitcoin into the kind of wavelength of, thinking around your assets, your properties, and then thinking around Bitcoin and trying to align those two together, and then even just comparing, what's the better option for you? Because as you say, the headaches with real estate, with tenants, with again, kind of degradation or degradation of your property, and there's so many different things and fees and various things, the risk as well of natural disasters and stuff. But yeah, it's just it's a complete Bitcoin is a completely different animal that's just come to us, and it's just something that takes a little bit of time to get your head around. But yeah, it's a crazy ride so far, and it's definitely, again, like looking towards 2025 now. I who knows what's going to happen, but it's going to be interesting for the very least. But you can see, are you still feeling there's going to be quite a bit of volatility now? Do you feel coming up Christmas, New Year, what are you expecting generally on the, I know we don't talk price too much, but just generally what has happened this last few weeks, what we're seeing at the moment, we're sitting around what, 90, what is it, 95-ish today on time of recording. I'd actually never looked today what
Yeah,
the
I
price.
think it's dollars wise. I think it's around that. To be honest, I don't really have that big of an expectation.
Yeah.
Now there is a matter of time, and this will happen unexpectedly. And like I don't know who coined this phrase first of all, and it's pretty common as well. But time in the market is better than time in the market. So
Mm,
there's people going to get caught off guard with these moves. It's only a matter of time because the education of Bitcoin is increasing, the
mm,
understanding of it. The longer it's about, the more established it is, the easier it is for people to invest in it and trust it. Um, and also, I think there's a couple of people as well was mentioning they're probably more in the investment banking side that there's certain entities that can't touch it because they'll just blow out the price if they invest in it. But once it goes into those couple of $1 trillion
aye.
market cap, then they'll get involved in it. So,
It's interesting.
like I've been here as long as you are in this space, and sometimes you just wake up in the morning and there's a big move, and then it continues
Mm,
on for days. And if you're not in the market at that time, you're going to be left behind. So, I don't know when it'll happen. I can't predict, but what I do know is that the trajectory in general is going to be up and to the right over a long
yeah.
period of time. Now, will there be drawdowns? Like they seem to be less over time, and I think that's probably where it's going to go. But that doesn't mean that there can't be if everyone knew what they held, I would say there's no drawbacks, and everybody will pile into it, and that may happen at some stage. But outlook is bullish. What happens between now and then the end of the year, I don't know. There could be breaking news somewhere. I know there's a couple of people on Twitter saying that there's big news coming
Mm.
in the US.
As
Everyone,
always.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
But no, but probably more accurately and more credible at the moment. Yeah, certainly. Uh,
yeah, yeah. So it's interesting. Like again, I'm positive on it. Will it get carried away and will it pull back as well? Then a year or two down the line, if you're following cycles, most likely. I don't think we're at that stage yet of where we're going to get that S curve adoption. I don't actually, but also I don't think it's too far away. You
yeah,
know, cycles are going to end someday. That's my view.
yeah,
Because Bitcoin is going to become the neutral base layer money for the world, transacted between all countries. That'll end someday. I think we're still in that position where like, just because somebody owns Bitcoin doesn't mean they understand Bitcoin. I would be interested to see how many people understand Bitcoin and hold Bitcoin. And when I say understand, I know there's no test to understand it, but when you know a Bitcoiner and they understand it and they've got that conviction, and no matter what you do, you're not gonna let go of your Bitcoin. Like how many people are there compared to how many people invest in Bitcoin,
mhm,
and see it as I'm gonna get rich off it, which
yeah,
will happen for a lot of people. But yeah, like to me, once everyone understands Bitcoin, it's a way, and it's not going to come back. It's going to outdo fiat very quickly, and very, very, very quickly. I think what is it the phrase as well? Is it part
gradually and suddenly.
gradually and suddenly?
Gradually, then suddenly.
Yeah,
I can feel that. I can feel that happening. Again, can't predict when it's happening, but I can feel that's gonna likely happen at some point, especially if big developments happen within a short period of time, which they could likely happen in 2025. It's kind of
Good.
gearing up like that. And that's again the question is always asked, like, and my friend asked the other day there as well. It's like, well, is it still a good time to buy Bitcoin? It's like, well, yeah, any time's a good buy to buy Bit or a good time to buy Bitcoin. But ultimately, as you say, it's time in the market. You got it, and that's like we're not giving advice here. I'm not giving advice, but as I said, it's like you got to be there for minimum 4 years. You got to just look at this as a longer term thing. If you're sitting looking at the charts every day or every week, you're going to get, shaken out potentially if a 5% or 10% drawdown affects you. So it's a longer term store of value. And as you say, it's up to the right. That's the graph. That's the log. If you do the log chart, look at it, zoom out. Um, but it again, having the convictions, the other thing, it's getting that foundational knowledge, that foundational layer, and then being able to think for yourself around it. Excuse me. So then you'll know then it's the right time to buy Bitcoin. So, but yeah, price gets to the point where as long as you get some and have some, you're better off than not having any. So, that's basically what I sort of left the conversation with.
Yeah. What
But
what slice of the 21 million do you want, and how valuable will that become in
yeah,
the future? 21 million um divided by, or everything divided by 21 million. So if all the value
yeah.
of the word goes into those 21 million
It's the concept too of that's what I said yesterday too. It was like there's 60, what is there, 60 million or something, probably more, 60 something million
profit.
millionaires, and there's only 21 million Bitcoin. And then you just let that sit for a second. You're like, oh, okay. So, and just the fact that you don't have to own a whole one. It's like just get fractions. You break and people, and again, it's something I overlook. It's explaining the fact there's 100 million units within a Bitcoin, and you don't need to buy, a whole massive Bitcoin all at once. It's like, try to get some, even a $10 or £10, euro, whatever it is, £100, whatever. Just get something, and even just, and we had that discussion a few weeks back. It's like, and I've probably changed my mind around that. Do you need to just get all the education around it first? It's like, well, yeah. My thinking before that was yes, you probably would be better to, but ultimately, if you've got a little bit of money there, buy some, be involved in the ecosystem, and you do learn a lot better from that. And you'll get used in seeing, it might draw down, it might drop by 10, 20%, and then it'll bounce back up again. And it's just getting that psychological kind of mindset around it too. But even having a small amount, I think, yeah, just get it in there and, just see how the whole thing, how it all functions, so to speak.
Yeah.
But along that period as well, start learning about it, start getting to know about it.
Yeah.
That's probably the best thing.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, if people want to learn about it, obviously we're here. We offer consultancy services. If you just want to chat this, like we can make it as informal or formal as you want. We've got a whole load of education packs that we put together. So come and join us, and sign up for the Bitcoin breakthrough as well, which is an interesting uh course that we've put together for people. So yeah,
And
like,
it's live as well, which is good because you can
yeah,
ask questions. Like it's live.
yeah, and it's going to be me and Alan too as well, chatting about it. Like, I know we can automate a lot of these and record a lot of these, but I'd rather talk to people about it and explain it, and answer some questions along the way. Like, I think we'll continue all aspects of it, like continue writing blogs, continue posting social media, continue educating. Like, going to be a lot of free content. I would say as well, if there's people that that we've both experienced this, and I think every Bitcoiner's experienced it. Sometimes those closest to you just think that you're, you know,
No.
yeah, yeah, you're crazy. They tend to listen to people who are outside their social circle, friend circle, family circle, better, because they've just got completely different perspectives. So if you've got friends or family who you think could benefit for it, just send more. Just get them to log onto the site, read the blogs, and
Yeah.
listen to a couple of videos. Like, you don't need to pay for. We're going to create enough content as well to educate people over time. Like, if you want to fast track that, then join. Like, sign up to some of the services on the site. More than welcome to do that. But just follow us along, and share the content with people. We're happy to do this for many years to come, until we reach that Bitcoin standard.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And again, for me, and I know I'm biased because I've been in the space for a bit. I've learned a lot, still continuing to learn. You never stop learning on Bitcoin. But for me, if you're listening to this and it's coming up to Christmas now, and if you have a couple of hours free between it's the 13th, 14th, and 15th of December, that's our next one at the time of recording. And just getting that baseline knowledge and information within a short period of time over those 3 days, and it's only an hour every evening or every day, depending on where you're located in the world. But it's just getting something, getting some momentum and some knowledge base around Bitcoin, so that you can then go into 2025 and see how things start to play out. At least if you have that knowledge base there and you've started to learn and gone on that Bitcoin journey, you can make decisions better. You see the world differently. You'll see a lot of things. It's not just money. You'll see all these different things happening and unfolding. And you definitely can, navigate your whole lifestyle and your whole world in a more open and clear kind of thinking or way of thinking when you do have a grasp of what Bitcoin is, because it allows you to understand what money is. And that's the basis of the first talk we will do on that first day is kind of understanding what money is, why it's important to understand that, and then we're sort of evolving into then, what the problem is and then what the solution is. And over those 3 days, we'll kind of anybody that's new to this will, I feel, and I'm pretty confident, will go away with a whole new outlook on, what's going on, and have more hope. I dare say we'll have more hope for the future, because again, at the moment, people are struggling, and Bitcoin is hope. And I'll leave it at that for this
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, no, good ending. And that's something we haven't talked about. Maybe it is something that we'll talk about as well. Just the future of Bitcoin, what it means for humanity, what it means for every different scenario. I think not every scenario, but the vast majority of scenarios where people are struggling in certain ways. Like what it means for somebody in a developing country versus a developed country, somebody in a small business, somebody in a corporation, somebody in a government
Mm.
level role. Like it means something different for everyone, and hope I think is like everyone has a different angle and benefit for Bitcoin, which is interesting. So yeah, nailed on that Bitcoin has hope, I think, for every single human on the planet. Um, yeah, Alan, I think I'm gonna rest up now after my game of football that you mentioned at the start, and I'll wake up tired tomorrow. And yeah, it's good to do these sessions and refresh the head.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm going to be in much needed rest. I'm going to hang up the boot someday soon, but
No,
not
no,
quite
don't do
ready
that.
yet.
No, no, you're fine. You're young yet, man. Don't worry.
Well, some
All
like
good.
and younger that are turning
I feel bad
football and
now.
they're
I'll
going
go
to
do.
be in the retirement home.
I'll have to do some sit-ups before bedtime just to make myself feel a bit
Yeah,
better.
there's
But
nothing
yeah,
wrong.
I'll leave it at that. But yeah, don't forget the Bitcoin breakthrough again, 13th of December. If you're watching this or listening to this before that date, that's our next one. So feel free to jump on the website. We'll leave the links below as well. And it'd be great to have a few more people and new faces on to see how we can educate or accelerate the understanding and knowledge around Bitcoin moving forward. So good stuff.
Good conversation, Alan. Thank you.
No
Cheers.
worries. See ya.